עליו את הנשק. אנא היהו לאחודו.
דת מרלן, הנה נתו משיחה, ברא דהלה.
ענה ענה.
גוטפה! אלי! למה עזבתני? מה שלום?
How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the morning, let's seal the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Jesus, yours is the victory. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Oh God, you're my living hope. Although the earth cried out for blood, satisfied her hunger was. Billows calmed on raging seas, the souls of men she craved. The sun and moon from balcony turned their head in disbelief. Precious love would taste the sting, disfigured and disdained. On Friday a thief, on Sunday a king, laid down in grief, awoke holding keys to hell on that day. Firstborn of the slain, the man Jesus Christ lay death in his grave. So 3 days in darkness slept this morning sun of righteousness arose to throw the chains of death and overturn his rule. Now daughters and the sons of men will pay not their dues again. The debt of blood they owed was rent when they rose anew. On Friday a thief, on Sunday a king, laid down in grief, woke holding keys to hell fell on that day, firstborn of the slain. The man Jesus Christ laid death in his grave. Friday a thief, Sunday a king, laid down in grief, woke cold and keeps hell on that day, firstborn of the slain. The man Jesus Christ laid death in his grave.
Well, the Passion Week is the last physical week that Jesus lives before his death on Friday, which is exactly what we are celebrating today on Good Friday, the day where Jesus was crucified by the Roman soldiers. It's also the week where most of the events surrounding the controversy of Jesus' death will take place, and many of the Gospels center on that specific time frame of events. In the Gospels, there are 7 recorded sayings of Jesus on the cross. And today we're going to look at just one of those that is recorded for us in Luke chapter 23, verses 39 through 43. It is there where Jesus talks about the 2 thieves that hang on both sides of him. He says in verse 39, one of the criminals who were hanged railed at him, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due reward of our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." And he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus looked at him and said to him, "Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." You know, sandwiched in the middle of Luke's account of Jesus' death is this intriguing and enticing story of his conversation with the 2 thieves that are hanging on both sides of him. And what I want you to understand today is, as we look at the text, as obscure as this story may seem, as insignificant of a conversation as this may seem, you and I must become familiar with these 2 thieves that are hanging right beside Jesus. And the reason why we should do that is because, in essence, as Luke is kind of helping us to understand, they represent all of humanity. There is not a soul on the face of the earth that cannot at least recognize with one of these 2 thieves. So what do these 2 criminals hanging on opposite sides of Jesus have in common? Well, verse 41, we find out that these 2 thieves both are guilty. They are condemned criminals. And how do we know that? Well, in verse 41, one of them actually testifies to their guilt. They were not just guys who got caught or in the wrong place at the wrong time. No, they were tried and they were convicted for their crimes. But on top of that, not only were they guilty, they were both condemned for their actions. In today's world, we live in a day where a lot of guilty people in the world haven't been caught for what they've done wrong. But these guys had been caught and they had been tried and they had been condemned to death for their actions. But thirdly, we see that both of these witnesses, they represent the truth, or they witness the truth. they see Jesus is clearly condemned beside them. And they're just like him, or he's just like them, hanging there, exposed for all the world to see. And at the same time, they've heard the stories. They've heard how Jesus was doing miracles, how he made the lame to walk again, how he opened up the blinded eyes to see again, and even how he raised one specific man back from life. They knew all about those miracles that Jesus had been doing. And they see this guy that they've heard about so much. They see him suffering with them, but we see that the text records that Jesus, even though he's suffering with these thieves, he's not suffering like these thieves. If you notice, what happens is the thieves lash out at Jesus in their own depravity. They don't know any better. The one guy is mocking God and mocking Jesus for trusting in God, and the other one is mocking his fellow partner in crime for him mocking Jesus. See, Jesus, as he hangs there, as the text says, he hangs there silently. You have thieves on both sides bickering at one another, and Jesus doesn't lash out in the midst of his suffering. Instead, what you find in the sayings that Jesus has on the cross is he simply cries out to the Father. He doesn't complain about his circumstances. He doesn't gripe about what the world has thrown at him. Instead, he's trusting in the Father. These two thieves, ultimately, they both exhibit a different response to the truth. If you look at the text, you'll see that one of the thieves is hardened by what he sees. He sees all the pain that Jesus is going through. He sees the agony of the cross. He sees the crowd right before him who seems to be entertained by their own death. And this thief, seeing all of this stuff, and as he absorbs it in, all of it leads him to grow even harder toward Christ. In fact, in verse 39, he looks at Jesus and he simply says, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." I mean, basically what this thief is saying is, he's like, "Hey, listen, man, if you really are the Messiah, if you really are this promised one from God, then get me down off of here. Get me out of this mess, because I don't want to be here." But on the flip side, the other thief is not hardened by what he sees. Instead, he's actually changed by what he sees. He's never seen a man suffer like this man before. He's never seen Jesus. They've never seen a man on a cross who has absolutely nothing to say to his accusers. They both witnessed the truth. But the text says there's one huge difference between these two thieves, and that is they both have polar responses to the truth. They both have completely different responses to Jesus. One of them simply wants Jesus to save him from his circumstances. "Jesus, if you really are the Christ, save yourself and us." I mean, there are a lot of people in the world that are just like that today, with that same exact view of Jesus. All they want is they want Jesus to save them from their circumstances. Listen, Jesus, if you are real today, if you are really who you say you are, then get me out of this mess. Fix my problems. Take care of my pain. Get me down off of this cross. Do you know anybody like that today? Maybe you've said that very same thing. Jesus, save yourself and us. At the end of the day, all this thief wanted is he wanted Jesus to do his will, not God's will. He just wanted Jesus to take away his pain, take away his hardship. And people who live their lives like that, their entire so-called commitment to Jesus is centered on Jesus doing what they want and ultimately what's comfortable for them. And whenever Jesus rubs with what is comfortable to them, then ultimately Jesus has to be ditched. He has to be removed from the equation. But that's what this thief wanted. He just wanted Jesus to save him from his circumstances. But the other thief has a completely different desire. In fact, if you look back in the text, you find that in genuine humility, he rebukes his former partner in crime. He rebukes him. In verse 40, he's basically saying, you and I are here because we deserve to die. We've deserved this. We've put ourselves in this position. But listen, this man hasn't done anything. This guy, Jesus, he doesn't deserve to be numbered among a bunch of thieves like us. And now this thief simply only has one request to Jesus. And it's a simple request. In verse 42, he says, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom. See, the other thief just wants Jesus to save him from his circumstances, but this thief, he only wants Jesus to remember him. That's it. He doesn't want anything from Jesus. He doesn't ask anything of Jesus. He just simply says, remember me. Remember me. And I read this and I think of, you have the Son of God standing right beside you or hanging right beside you. And you're only minutes and hours from your own death. You can only imagine the request that you and I would give. But none of those requests that we would give are there. There's no request to end his pain, to bring an end to his suffering. There's no request to take care of his family. There's no request of any of that sort. He doesn't even ask Jesus to take him with him. Doesn't even do that. He just simply says, remember me when you come into your kingdom. That's it. And what we find here in Luke chapter 23 is one of the simplest but yet deepest professions of faith in the entire New Testament. Because what we see here is the faith that this thief possesses. It comes from a heart that's already been tested, that's already been tried. I mean, sometimes do you wonder when people come to Christ? I know I do. You go through church ministry and you see people come and go and you see people baptized and then sometimes you see people just fall through the cracks and you always ask, are they going to last? Are they going to stick with it? Or is something else going to come in to their life and allow them just simply to walk away? I think of the parable of the soils that Jesus gives in the Gospel of Luke. And there Jesus teaches us that there are people who look like good seed planted in good soil. But after a while, what happens is the cares of the world choke out that seed and it chokes out the growth. And the cares of the world come and it just leads them in another path, another direction. They come asking Jesus to save them from their circumstances. But when Jesus doesn't measure up, man, they ditch Jesus like the bad habit. When their circumstances are taken care of, they're nowhere to be found. This guy, this thief, he's already been tested. I mean, there's absolutely nothing that he is gaining with his conversation with Jesus as he's hanging there on the cross. He's gaining absolutely nothing for acknowledging the lordship of Jesus. The only thing that he's going to receive is he's going to receive even greater ridicule and persecution, because everyone there who is watching this wants Jesus to die just as much as the other thief does. See, for this one thief, something has completely changed for him. He has let go. He's let go of his past. He has let go of his pain. He has let go of all of that bitterness, and he just simply lets it go and places his faith firmly in Jesus by saying, Lord, remember me. That's it. And Jesus responds to him by saying, brother, I'm not just going to remember you. He says to this thief, I'm going to take you with me. I mean, you are going to be a part of what I am fixing to accomplish. I'm not just going to remember you. I'm going to save you. I'm going to change you. I'm going to bring you with me into my kingdom. But remember, there still yet remains the other thief. His heart is still hardened by his sin. He's still consumed by the desire of his sin, and the text records that he dies with the anger and bitterness of a condemned criminal. Dying because of what he has done, but ultimately dying in his pride, asking no one for forgiveness. See, as I told you, these two thieves represent for us all of humanity. And the reason why it is they are exactly alike and alike us in every area but one. The difference between the two is that one had faith in Jesus and the other didn't. The one saw his pain, saw his agony, and it drew him to Jesus. He had nothing to gain from acknowledging the lordship of Christ, and he just embraced him. But on the other side, you have this man who is hardened by his sin, who is hardened by his circumstances. And as people mock him and ridicule him and spit on him, he is even more increasingly hardened and thinks, how can God exist if this is happening to me? At the end of the day, one of those men trusted Christ. The other one did not. The one who did trust Christ, he did it simply through acknowledging and repenting of his sin by humbly asking Jesus to forgive him of his sin. And that day he died a changed man. But the other one, even though he's hardened, he dies in his own sin. And for 2,000 years, one of those criminals has enjoyed the fullness of the promise that Jesus gave him right on that very day. And he has placed the thief in a place of honor as though he had a righteousness all of his own. And because his sin was paid for by the man who died right beside him, he now is experiencing the comfort and joy of knowing Christ for eternity in heaven. But for 2,000 years, the other thief has experienced suffering and torment in a Christless hell. Perhaps still in the bitterness and the pain and the anger for which he died. And now he has to live with the acknowledgement that he was just this close. This close. And he, like his partner in crime, he too could have had eternal life. But on that day, he didn't take it. He didn't receive Jesus. Listen, friend. This story is sometimes an obscure story. But I promise you this. Get to know these two thieves well. Because you're going to spend eternity with one of them. And at the end of the day, the difference between which one you will spend eternity with all hinges upon the same thing that they experienced that day. What will you do with Jesus? Will you simply say, Jesus, save yourself and us? Ask Jesus to save you from your circumstances, but not save you from your sin. And because of broken and shattered expectations, you walk away faithless and broken, just like you came. Or will you come to Jesus in faith and simply say, Lord, remember me. Remember me when you come into your kingdom. All of that depends upon what you will do with your sin. Will you try to bear it yourself? Or will you let Jesus take care of it? Because the reason why we call the death of Jesus, the day that Jesus died, Good Friday, is because at the end of the day, what Jesus did for you was the greatest good the world's ever seen. Jesus, while he is hanging on the cross, he pays for your sin debt and mine. And all of the wrath and all of the anger that God owes to us for our sin was placed on his Son. And as Jesus gave his last breaths, he offered up his life for you. And he offered up his life for me. So that if any man would trust in him, then they too will be saved.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb?